booth. Can we Bluetooth it?
This is not a smart TV.
What should I do? Should I start? Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead and start. There is a brother who is bringing the cable. So as soon as he bring the cable, I will just record it.
خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو إليه النشور. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم إنا أمسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أحبتي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وطبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. جزاكم الله خير for having me here tonight. It means a lot in your scale, inshallah, on the day of judgment, that on Saturday, your weekend, your day off, you stay between Maghrib and Isha to remind yourself about something good or to learn something that is beneficial, to bring yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by learning more about your deen, especially when it comes to the business and transaction part. That is something actually means a lot. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all for that. I think it was announced before. Soon, inshallah, we're going to project the PowerPoint presentation. But the title that I have chosen for this presentation is Islamic Finance 101. Islamic Finance 101. How many components we have in this topic? Islamic Finance 101. 3 components. What does finance? Let's just break it down. What does finance mean? As an industry in general. Forget about the Islamic one. What does finance mean? It means that we do have a kind of like fund supply group of individuals within a certain society who do have an extra money, and they do not want just to keep that money just to sleep with the money, as they say. They want to generate money from the money that they have. They want to invest that money, but they are not in the mood, they are not available enough, they do not have the business mentality of investing that money directly in the market. So they're looking for somebody else to take that money, use it, and just bring them some return. Okay. On the other hand, we do have another group of people in the same society who are looking for fund. Some of them might be just looking for mortgage. They want to construct a house or build a house. Maybe they want to establish a new business or upgrade their current business, whatever the reason might be, but they are in need for fund. They are in need for fund. In order for those 2 different groups to communicate with one another effectively, we need a third party, a kind of platform, intermediator, third party, someone who is willing to bring those 2 different groups together, right? So the first group, or the job of the first group, is to collect the money. That's in a technical term called the fund mobilization collection. And the other part actually is looking for something called fund utilization. They are looking for some money to spend. And the intermediator, the one in between, is doing a job called the fund intermediation. So we ended up having 3 different components here in the finance as an industry, whether you live in the United States or in Mecca al-Mukarramah or Algeria or Pakistan or Cambodia, it doesn't make any difference. Finance is finance, right? Fund mobilization collecting fund utilization, right, using that fund, and fund intermediation. So the one who does the job is the finance institute. That finance institute could be a mortgage company, could be a bank, could be investment company, call it whatever you want. So this is actually what we mean by finance. Finance actually is the job of bringing the money from one side and giving that money to the other side. So everybody will be happy. Those who want to make money and profit from the fund, they can do so. And those who are in need for money for whatever reason might be, will be having sufficient fund to proceed with their life. That is the finance one. Now, when you say Islamic finance, it means that we are adding a new component here, talking about a system or an industry that is limited or abiding itself by the Islamic principles, because finance could be a communist one, right? Could be a capitalist one, and could be an Islamic one. So we are not here tonight to discuss the capitalist, which is the dominating, the intercontinental, one that is controlling the whole universe almost nowadays. We are not here to discuss the communist economic and finance system. We are here to discuss the Islamic one. When you say Islamic finance, it means an industry that abides, okay, by the Islamic principles. And before we move on, we need to remember something important. The very first thing comes to our mind when we hear the term Islamic finance is the ban of interest, like avoiding, staying away from interest or from riba. And of course, I will explain what does riba mean. But do not you think that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited for this ummah was prohibited for the previous ummah, for the previous nations? The answer is yes. Riba is prohibited for the ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. It was prohibited for the Christian community to practice. It was prohibited for the Jewish community to practice, believe it or not. In fact, the Quran itself is the one who have told us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited the Jewish community from dealing with interest. He said subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى, referring to the Jewish community. قَالَ وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. They used to transact, they used to deal with interest while they were prohibited from doing so. So the one who is establishing the fact that riba or interest or usury, call it whatever you want, was prohibited for the Jewish community is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Remember this ayah, وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. For the Christian community, although we do have like a big question mark when it comes to the authenticity of the Bible that people refer to nowadays, but forget about this issue. Just to grab any Bible that you want and start reading. You will come across several verses or ayat, okay, attributed to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, or otherwise to the disciples, al-Hawariyin, where they were prohibiting their community members or their followers explicitly, clearly, from dealing with interest. What is the conclusion here? Conclusion is that there is a consistency. Okay, riba was prohibited for the Jewish community. Riba was prohibited for the Christian community. Riba is prohibited and will continue being prohibited all the way until the day of judgment for the Muslim community. By the way, not only riba, all those major prohibited matters, murdering, stealing, backbiting, deceiving, you name it, all the prohibited matters for Ummatul Islam were prohibited for the previous nations. All the major commands on how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, salah, siyam, zakah, you name it. Previous nations actually were practicing the same. وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ. So the salah and the siyam and the and the zakah, even the hajj since the lifetime of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, all the way until Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everybody actually was practicing the same. With this in mind, if you feel more comfortable calling this system, okay, where the main characteristic is the ban of interest, and again I will elaborate inshallah more, if you want to call this system a Jewish finance system, you are absolutely correct. If you want to call it a Christian finance system, Feel free. You want to call it Islamic finance system, that would be fine. Divine finance system, that would be fine as well. So again, we Muslim community or Muslims in general are not like innovating something new. We are not starting from scratch. We are just the legacy of whatever Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was delivering to his community. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam actually was delivering to his community. Nothing new here. The other thing, in the Islamic finance system, whenever you decide to get involved, whether in like fund mobilization or fund utilization or fund intermediation, you have to make sure that the highest, this one, I think from the other side, that the highest level of transparency and integrity is there. Bismillah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Should we start all over? Right. Jazakallah khair. So whether you do the fund mobilization or the fund utilization or the fund intermediation, we have to make sure that the highest level of transparency and integrity actually is there. You cannot like get blindly involved in a business without knowing your rights, your duties, your responsibilities, who is doing what, who is the financier, who is the manager, who is liable for what, how much is the percentage of the profit that you are entitled to whenever there is a profit. Is your principal guaranteed? Is your profit all these different things have to be tackled and just nailed down from day one. You cannot just get involved in something that you do not know what's going on. So integrity and transparency. Number 3, ethics and values. Any kind of business from an Islamic finance perspective, any kind of business, regardless of its profitability or feasibility, even if that business is so profitable, you can make 100% or even more profit. If that kind of business, if the final product that you are getting involved in to produce to the society is in a very clear contradiction with the values of the society, with the ethics of the society, you cannot get involved in. Anything related to winery, for example, or tobacco, or adult entertainment, anything that's really harmful, that's really explicitly haram from an Islamic perspective, you cannot get involved in it. Anything related to building and establishing riba-based financial institutes, you have to stay away from it. Although, like, this kind of business is so profitable, like those finance institutes are making a huge amount of profit comparison to other businesses. But when it comes to you as a practicing religious Muslim, you have to stay away from any kind of business that's in a very clear contradiction with your principles, ethics, and values. When you hear Islamic finance, it should come to your mind that the business that you are getting involved in is something tangible, something beneficial, something that adds a kind of value to the society. Okay, you buy, you sell, you manufacture, you commission, you trade, you do something that brings some adds some value to the society. Anything that makes no sense whatsoever, anything that is not representing any commodity or any goods or any merchandise or any service. Nowadays you hear in the stock market something called derivatives, right? المشتقات المالية, derivatives and CDS and CDO and options and futures and bonds. Okay, all these different financial instruments are not supposed to be within your comfort zone, because those derivatives, for example, do not represent any value whatsoever. Derivative actually is just a piece of paper that's connected with a certain index or a group of companies. If they make a profit, you lose money. If they incur loss, you make a profit. I mean, this is not the kind of business that you want to get involved in. What kind of value, what kind of benefit you add to the society if you trade in such a financial instrument? You have to limit yourself to stocks. Stocks actually means a certain percentage of ownership, okay, related to the company that you are holding in stocks, right? If you hold a stock of CVS or Microsoft or Apple, it means you became one of the owners of that company. If their core business is a halal one, then you are in the right track. But do not tell me derivatives, mushtaqat maliyya, CDS, CDO, futures, options, all these financial instruments actually do not bring any actual, real, tangible value to the society. And that's why you have to stay away from them. This is actually what we mean by commoditization and asset-backed, right? Asset-backed means that you produce something. There is something tangible, beneficial, usable, useful to the society. This is actually where you want to get involved in. The very last characteristic of the Islamic finance is the ban of riba or interest. By the way, if you want to call call it interest, or you call it usury, or you call it riba, we do not honestly care that much about the terms, right? Call it whatever you want. Some people nowadays differentiate between usury as opposed to interest, as opposed to premium, as opposed to surplus amount. From an Islamic perspective, actually, there is no such differentiation between these different terms. Now, the very last one is the ban of riba, or the prohibition of interest. Why I'm calling this presentation 101? 101 means like the very basic level. When you go to college, you take 100 level class, and then 200, then 300, and then 400. Is that correct? So this one actually is 101 in a sense that we are not here tonight to discuss technical details. If we are to discuss the mudaraba mode of finance, mudaraba means like a trustee partnership. We are not here tonight to discuss the very tiny technical trivial details, what will happen if, what will happen. This is not actually a part of the scope of this presentation because of the time. It's just an introduction to the topic. It's just Islamic Finance 101. We are not here to discuss the Islamic alternative, right? If we concluded, based on our discussion tonight, that opening a saving account is not halal, right? What is the alternative? How to make money if you have a lot of money and you want to put it in a halal way? I mean, this is something like different. If we concluded that traditional mortgage process in the US is not a Sharia compliant one, what is the alternative? How about those like, Islamic mortgage companies? Are they doing a good job or bad job? That's completely different discussion. So it is Islamic Finance 101. Moving on. Riba is prohibited. Interest is prohibited. Muslims are not supposed to deal with interest. That's something we all agree upon. We all agree. I don't think it's an issue to discuss the status of riba as a concept. Is it haram or halal? I mean, this is something معلوم من الدين بالضرورة, like known by necessity. Everybody knows, even our non-Muslim neighbors around us or fellow Americans, they know that practicing religious Muslims do not deal with interest. This is not the issue. Issue here is, number one, what kind of interest we are referring to. Do you know that riba in the Quran and the Sunnah are of two different, not two, well, three or even more than three different categories. There is something called riba al-fadl, and riba al-nasa, and riba al-nasi'a, and riba al-diyun, and riba al-jahiliya, and riba al-ta'am, and so on and so forth. Sometimes you tend to like educate yourself. You just grab in a classical Shafi'i or Hanbali or Maliki or any fiqh book, and you go to the chapter of riba, Kitab al-Riba, and you start reading, right? Especially those books who were like written in the 5th and the 6th and the 7th Hijri century, where the language is too complicated to understand. You start coming across examples that are very, very irrelevant to us Muslims living in the United States in 2023. Okay, you will read examples of trading apple for orange, or barley for wheat, or rice, for sugar, and so on and so forth. All these examples are correct. They do represent certain level or certain category of riba, but they are very irrelevant to our society. And that's why the more that you read, right, without being like closely monitored or directed by your teacher, the more you get confused, right? This is not the riba that we are facing or struggling actually with in this society. Muslims in the USA in 2023 do not exchange barley for wheat, or like oil for rice, or rice for apple, and so on and so forth, right? If you want to buy something, you just grab your phone, your smartphone, and you make an order online. Within 2 or 3 hours, you will find the, the barley or the wheat or the sugar or the rice in front of your front door, and you use your debit card or your credit card, or sometimes you use even cryptocurrency to buy whatever you want. So all these examples are very, very outdated. They are very irrelevant to our society. There is, sorry.
For trading an iPhone, different type of phone, iPad.
Sure. If you just allow me to finish the presentation, I will address that. So there is one category, okay, which is the most severe one, the most prohibited one, and this category actually is agreed upon its prohibition. If there is any kind of disagreement or debate between the Sahaba and the Tabi'een regarding riba al-fadl, for example, like exchanging date for date or apple for apple with inequality, if the quality of the apple or the date fruit or the tamar is different, there is no disagreement about this very particular category of riba, which is in a very, very simple word, it is the interest-bearing loan. It is the interest-bearing loan. You go to Wells Fargo or Chase or Bank of America or Capital One, you apply for $100,000 investment loan or business loan or personal loan or student loan, construction, whatever the category might be. Upon the approval of your application, you will be getting that $100,000 wired to your bank account with 3 or 4 or 5 more or less percent APR. APR stands for annual percentage rate. APR stands for annual percentage rate, which means that if you take $100,000 and you want to have that loan for one complete year, you're supposed to pay back to Bank of America how much? 105. If the interest is a simple interest, not a compound one, right? So the 100 is to be paid back how much? 105. If you want to keep that money for 2 years, total amount is 110. Is that correct? If you want to keep that money for 10 years, then 150 and so on and so forth. So this kind actually of transaction, okay, is called an interest-bearing loan. Interest-bearing loan. There is a principal amount and there is a premium on top of it. That premium could be lump sum, right? Could be variable, could be fixed, could be one-time payment, could be monthly payment. We do not actually care about all these details because those are very technical, economic, financial issues. They are not fiqh issues, right? What we care about this issue is the fiqh perspective, what's haram and what's halal. So if you read with me this definition of interest, okay, when we say interest from now on, it is the premium. Premium means the extra money that has to be added to the principal. It is the premium that must be paid. Must, it's not an option. Must be paid by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. One more time. The premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan, or for the extension of its maturity. How many categories of money we have here? We have a principal and we have premium. In our example, the principal is the $100,000 that you are applying, for to get from Bank of America, right? And the premium, if you want to keep that money for only 1 year, the premium is the $5,000, which is 5% APR, right? So we have principal and we have premium. Now, when it comes to the contracting parties, do you see any kind of partnership here? Any kind of partnership, like joint project you get involved in with the bank? The answer is no. The relationship between you and the bank is the relationship between a borrower and a lender. You are the borrower and the bank actually is the lender. Well, when you borrow from the bank, it's obvious and clear from day one that the bank does not care. The bank, in a positive way, does not care about the outcome result of that loan. You took $100,000 for 1 year investment loan, right? You involve that money in a business. Whether you make a profit, Jazakallah. Thank you. Whether you make profit, or you incur loss, or you break even, or you run out of business, or you go even bankrupt, the bank does not care about you, right? By the law of the land, by the agreement between you and the bank can go after you, asking for what? For the principal amount and for the premium as well. So let's make it clear that there is no partnership between you and the bank. There is no partnership between you and the bank. What do I mean by either as a condition for the loan? Condition for the loan means that if you do not agree, if you do not commit yourself from day one to pay that premium by saying, okay, I am willing to pay 5% APR, and it has to be paid anyway, right? And without agreeing to paying it, you cannot even proceed with the transaction. If you tell the loan officer that I'm religious, I'm practicing Muslim, I do not pay interest, answer would be, well, good for you, but you are in the wrong place. We are not a charity organization, we are a bank here, right? So if you want money, you have to pay us for the money that you are taking, right? So a condition for the loan means that if you do not sign and agree and commit yourself legally to paying the APR, the interest, you cannot take the money. So riba is unavoidable here. Riba is unavoidable. No commitment to paying interest, no money to start with. Now this is the most severe scenario and the most severe, prohibited and prohibited category of interest. There is another one that is less prohibited than the first one, which is in case you borrow money, zero interest for a certain period of time, right? And upon the maturity of the loan, if you delay your payment, if you do not pay in full, or if you do not pay before the due date, then you subject yourself to paying interest. Very good example here in the USA is when you use your credit card. Thank you. Okay, we all actually we do use credit card, right? But we know very well how to handle it. We do not use our credit card for cash withdrawal. Is that correct? Okay, because once you use it like for cash withdrawal, you will be charged interest. So we know very well that your credit card is not to be used for cash withdrawal, and you use it only for purchasing items, for paying bills, and you keep just watching your credit statement every single month. You pay it in full, like the monthly statement. You pay it in full before the due date, and that's why you continue using your credit card for years and years without paying one single penny as an interest, right? The ideal situation is that even agreeing to paying interest is not allowed. But there is a difference, okay? There is a difference between two cases. When riba is avoidable and when riba is unavoidable. When riba is unavoidable is when you walk to Bank of America or to Chase and you apply for a loan. There is no zero interest loan, zero APR loan. This is, something does not exist, right? But when you use your credit card, riba actually is avoidable if and only if you use your credit card for cash withdrawal, you did not pay the monthly statement in full, okay? You did not pay it before the due date, you subject yourself to paying interest. Now, based on this, classification, our fuqaha say that al-haramu lidhatihi tubihuhu ad-darura. Whatever is prohibited for itself, by itself, in itself, which is to borrow money with interest, right? Where riba or interest is unavoidable. This kind of interest-bearing loan cannot be permitted unless there is a necessity, sometimes like life or death situation. Now, وَالْحَرَامُ لِغَيْرِهِ تُبِيحُهُ الْحَاجَةِ. But if something actually is prohibited because of its potential consequences, then as long as there is a need for it, public and general need for it, you can go for it. Very good example is using credit card. Okay, when you use your credit card, is the riba avoidable or unavoidable? It is avoidable, right? And there is a need for it. There is a need. If I'm to go back to Saudi Arabia or to Algeria or to Bangladesh, or using credit card actually is not allowed. Like the same system in the USA here, you cannot use it, right? Because there is no public and general need for it. Now, Muslims living in the West in general, In the USA in particular, there is a need for the credit card. To build your own credit history, you have to have a credit card. Some points of sale do not accept cash money, no debit card, no personal check, nothing. It has to be credit card. Maybe my need is different than yours, but we as a Muslim community at large, we do need to hold a credit card. This is from one side. And the good news is that riba is avoidable, and that's why using credit card actually would be permitted as needed. So from now on, whenever I refer to riba, I refer to this definition: the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. Whenever you hear or read in the Quran riba, it refers to this one. That's called riba duyun or riba nasi'ah or riba al-jahiliyyah, right? The very famous ayah that, alhamdulillah, we all know by heart. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين. What was the reason behind the revelation of this ayah? Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reported explaining the practice that took place in the Jahiliyyah before Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and even after his prophethood, but before the permanent prohibition of interest. قال كان الرجل يقرض الرجل كان الرجل يقرض الرجل فإذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك أو فإذا جاء الأجل قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. Which means that people used to lend to one another interest-free loan, believe it or not, interest-free. And upon the maturity of the loan, whenever the loan is due, either the borrower would approach the lender by saying, give me more time, I don't have money now to pay you. Give me more time and I will pay you more, right? Or maybe the lender would approach the borrower by saying, listen, the loan is due. You have two options. You either pay me in full, you're good to go, no consequences, right? But if you want to keep the money, that's fine with me. But guess what? You need to pay me more. فأنزل الله سبحانه وتعالى. Based on that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who believe, اتقوا الله, be conscious to your Lord, وذروا ما بقي من الربا, and quit whatever is remaining as an interest. Okay, إن كنتم مؤمنين, if you claim to be believers. فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله. And if you are not willing to do so, then you are waging a war against Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وإن تبتم, but if you repent, فلكم رؤوس أموالكم, then you have to limit yourself to your principal when you lend others. لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون, without oppressing others and without being oppressed by others. So from now on, again, whenever I say riba, I refer to this one. Just remember, going to Bank of America or to Chase, applying for a loan with a certain APR. Could be 1%, could be 5, 10%. It doesn't make any difference. We're not here to discuss, technical finance details. This is just Islamic Finance 101. We are here to establish very fundamental and basic rules when it comes to haram and halal. It's obvious from this definition that this kind of finance or funding, if you wish, is a risk-shifting finance. Risk-shifting finance in a sense that Bank of America is not taking any liability. Here is $100,000, 5% APR for 1 year, and the bank is just sitting and relaxing, no effort, nothing to be done, just waiting for you to come back within 1 year and to pay the 105, right? You are the one who is taking full liability and full responsibility. If you indulge that money in a business and you make a profit, the profit is yours. If you break even, the bank does not care. If you incur loss, the bank does not care. If you go bankrupt, the bank does not care. By the law of the land, right? The bank can go after you and ask for the principal and ask for the premium on top of it. And you are the one who is taking the whole liability from A to Z. That is the risk shifting. So the bank actually is shifting the risk from its shoulder and putting it on your shoulder. You are absolutely by your own. Do whatever you want with the money. We don't care, right? It's obvious that this kind of finance creates a lot of financial exploitation, taken advantage. Like the bank that does have a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, okay, is taking advantage of the need of those who do not have fund, who do not have sufficient fund to proceed with their life, with their projects, with their financial needs. and that's why we call it risk shifting one. This is actually the non-Islamic one. Okay. Now, the Islamic one, as I will be explaining, goes with something called the risk sharing one. Risk sharing one, and not risk shifting one. Moving on. Here is the definition of riba, right? And here is the diagnosis, if you wish, why we do not like this as Muslims. Why do not believe that this is fair enough? Because of the risk shifting issue. Now, what kind of challenge we Muslims are facing in this society here? Is it whether or not riba is haram? I don't think so. Everybody knows riba is haram. Is it the definition of riba? I don't think so. Here is riba. Everybody now knows that the interest-bearing loan is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. In my opinion, and I might be wrong, there is a difference or discrepancy, if you wish, between what we read in the classical traditional fiqh books as opposed to what we experience in the real life. In the day-to-day transactions and business that we do, we come across several terms that we do not know whether or not they are the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. You come across, alaykum salam, you come across certain charges. Sometimes you charge others, and sometimes you get charged by others, and you do not know whether that charge is riba or the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, or it could be maybe otherwise, right? It could be otherwise. Now, that's the classical definition and examples, okay, in the fiqh books. As I said, riba al-fadl, riba al-nasa, riba al-ta'am, riba al-luhum, riba al-hayawanat, different classifications, and most of them do not exist in the real life. That's why we get confused. In the real life, you come across several charges. Take, for example, penalty. Sometimes, like in a contract you sign with the other party, there's something called penalty clause. If you do not submit the construction on time, if you are like a contractor, then you have to pay $500 daily because of the delay. Is that the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited or not? So the penalty clause, overdraft charge. I'll explain more. Okay, is it riba or not? Late fees. Sometimes you sign like a lease agreement. If you do not pay on time, then there will be late fees. Is it the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited or not? Right? This is actually where the confusion is coming from. So penalty, overdraft charge, late fees, dividend. You have an investment in the stock market, you do not actively trade, you are happy with whatever profit that you make toward the end of the year, they call it dividend. Is it riba or not? We do not know. We need to learn. Late fees, dividend, profit, commission, interest, cashback. How about cashback? Fine. Sometimes you have to pay fine, which is a kind of like, financial punishment, if you wish. They call it fine. Compensation for whatever job that you do. Honorarium, service fees, equity, okay, shares, and so on and so forth. Those terms do not exist in the classical fiqh books that we read. And this is actually where the confusion is coming from. Now, our job is to unlock the secret of those contemporary transactions, and just ask a very simple question. Is it proven that someone is offering money, okay, advancing money to others, and those others are taking full liability, okay, they have to commit themselves to pay back to that, financier or bank or whatever, or lender, the principal and the premium on top of it? Is there any interest-bearing loan? Someone is giving money to others, and the recipients of the money are the one who is committed to paying the principal and the premium on top of it. And that financier is not taking any risk. He or she is not conducting or establishing any kind of partnership with the recipient of the money. So it's just a straightforward lender-borrower relationship. Lender is the bank, borrower actually is the recipient of the money. If that is proven, then that deal, that entrepreneurship, that partnership, that contract, that business, that enterprise, call it whatever you want, is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Regardless whether it is introduced to you as riba or not, it doesn't make any difference. Because actually we do not care about the terms that people use. What we care about is the essence and the reality of the deal or the potential project that you want to get involved in. Again, your job before you get involved in any business is to find out, is it proven that someone is giving money to others, okay, free of liability? The principal is guaranteed to be paid back. The premium on top of the principal is guaranteed as well. If that is proven, that's the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala approved. Whether that deal is introduced to you as interest-bearing loan or introduced as otherwise, we don't care. We don't care about the names. And this actually brings to our attention this fiqh maxim or qaida fiqhiyya, al-ibratu fil uqud. Al-ibratu. Any Arabic speakers here? Can you please raise your hand, Arabic speakers? Arabic speakers. طيب. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters, what really matters in transactions is the essence and reality. The essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. I want you to remember this قاعدة, know it by heart. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording that you use or the formality. Example, back to Bank of America. You borrowed $100,000 for 5% APR for 1 year. That's an interest-bearing loan, straightforward. Is that correct? Okay, some way, somehow, the loan officer was able to manage to change the contract and to call it murabaha or musharaka or ijara or istisna. Would that, change the reality of the deal if we call it murabaha or halal musharaka? It does not. Okay, is this tea or coffee? Tea. Without sugar? Okay. If we write wine or beer here, would that make the tea or without sugar? Would that make it haram? It's still tea. Is that correct? And likewise, if you write here, wine or beer or whatever, it's still water. It's still halal. So we do not care about the names or the labels. What we care about is the content and the reality of the deal. Likewise, when it comes to contracts. So remember this قاعدة. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters, what really counts, okay, in transactions, in business, in partnership, is the essence and the reality of the deal, not the wording or the format. Call it mudaraba, call it musharaka, call it ijara, like those big names that unfortunately some Islamic finance companies nowadays try to impress the Muslim community by claiming that our mode of finance is musharaka, is murabaha, is mudaraba, and the reality shows otherwise. You are not taking any risk whatsoever. So they unfortunately they deceive the Muslim community by claiming that what we offer is a Sharia compliant, but actually it is not. It's straightforward interest-bearing loan, haram, finance. Although they try to label it otherwise. Moving on. Let's take some examples and do a kind of exercise for us here. How to discover or how to differentiate between the haram and the halal deal. Okay, by asking the same over and over, the same boring question. Is it proven that someone is advancing money free of liability and the principal and the premium on top of it are both guaranteed by the recipient of the money? If the answer is yes, then that's the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. First example, saving account. Saving account. Okay. Let's say, just for discussion, that I do have $10,000 cash money available to be given to others as a loan, and I made the deal with my brother here. Your name, Akhi? Huh? Afdal. No. I told Afdal, Akhi, here is $10,000, and you have from now until the end of 2024. You have 1 year, 3 months. Okay. You need to pay me back $11,000. $11,000. What do you call this deal? What do you call it? Interest-bearing loan, right? Here is the money. You are by your own. You come back after 1 year, 3 months, by December 2024. You pay me back $11,000. Do whatever you want with the money. I don't care. Okay, but you need to guarantee. You need to sign that you are willing to pay me the principal $10,000 plus $1,000. This is an interest-bearing loan. Is that correct? Okay. Before I give you the money, brother Afzal, I changed my mind. I said, you know what? I'm going to just open a saving account with Bank of America. And I did actually open a saving account. I deposited $10,000, and based on the deal that I had made with Bank of America, they're supposed to pay me back $11,000 toward the end of 2024. Toward the end of 2024. Now, based on the agreement that you sign, right, or you approve with the bank, okay, you do not care about the outcome result of that account. The bank might sleep on the money, might lend the money to others, might invest the money in a halal way, in a haram way. You don't care, right? By the FDIC, by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the bank actually has to pay you back how much? $11,000 in our example. Now, my question to you, is there any difference between me opening a saving account with Bank of America as opposed to lending my money to Brother Afzal? There is no difference. 10,000 deposited here to be paid back 11,000. 10,000 deposited or given to Afzal, okay, to be paid back $11,000. There is no difference. That is where the confusion actually is coming from. When you go to Bank of America and you open a saving account, it might not come to your mind that this is an interest-bearing loan. This is actually the fiqh interpretation of what's going on. Okay, someone might say, "Oh, hold on. Do you want to tell me that Bank of America is borrowing money from you? The bank that has hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars borrows money from you, and you have only 10,000?" My answer actually is yes. We do not go by who has more and who has less. What we go by is the nature of the agreement. I'm giving that money to Bank of America. The principal is guaranteed, and the premium on top of it is guaranteed. Well, this is a loan. This is an interest-bearing loan, and that's why actually opening a saving account is not a halal option. Okay, by default, opening a saving account is not a halal option. Why? Because it is an interest-bearing loan. As simple as that. How about overdraft charge? Overdraft charge. What does it mean, overdraft charge? It means that you do have a debit card, right? Debit card actually is connected with your checking account. Let's say, for example, that you do have only $300 available credit, okay, available balance, I'm sorry, in your checking account. And you stop by any point of sale to buy a phone like this one for $500. So you have how much? 300. And you purchased an item for how much? 500. And the transaction actually went through. When you swiped your debit card, it went through and you got the phone, right? After 1 or 2 weeks, like when you checked your bank statement, you will find out that you have to pay back to Chase your bank, okay, $200. And on top of the $200, 35 more or less, overdraft charge. Overdraft charge. Okay. They do not introduce to you overdraft charge as an interest. It's called overdraft charge, right? Now, is it interest or not? Again, we need to just pause a little bit and try to unlock the secret of what happened. When you have only $300 available cash, halal money that you deposit in your checking account, and you purchase an item for $500, and the transaction goes through, it means that somebody else has paid $200 on your behalf. Is that correct? Is it a gift for you or a loan that you have to pay? Okay. If you have to pay it back, then it is a loan, right? If you then it means that you have borrowed from your bank $200. Common sense. If the only amount that you have to pay back is $200, then we have no concern here. You borrowed 200 and you paid it back how much? 200. Problem here is that, oh, you have to pay on top of the $200 another $30 or $35, justified as an overdraft charge. Well, we ended up, you borrowing 200, or the bank is advancing you $200, and the bank is taking back the money, 235. That $35 by default is interest, unless otherwise proven. unless otherwise proven. What do you mean by otherwise proven? You can argue that. You can say, oh, hold on, this is a very irregular, abnormal transaction. It needs, like, more work in the back office to process the payment and to go after the customer and to charge him those $200. Because of the extra work that we do, although we don't have to do it, we charge $35. That would be fine. It would be fine. I'm not here to argue back. I'm here just to establish very, like, fundamental basic rules that the overdraft charge is interest unless otherwise proven. And you have, it's your responsibility to prove, to prove otherwise. But I'm here to say that overdraft charge is interest. Why? Based on the very basic information that we are discussing tonight. Okay, the bank actually gave you 200. You have to pay it back 235. Any single penny on top of the 200 will be counted as interest. A third, maybe an last example. I don't want to take too much of your time. Home mortgage. Home mortgage. Very, very sensitive topic. I know. I know. Right. What does home mortgage mean? When you get involved, in mortgaging a house in a very traditional way. Again, our job here is to unlock the secret, right? Like, reinterpret what's going on from fiqh, haram and halal perspective. When you mortgage a house, it means that you want to purchase a house, you want to buy a house, right? From the landlord, and the landlord is asking for $700,000, right? That is aqdu bay', that's a sale agreement. Is that correct? And of course, you do not have $700,000, so you go to a mortgage company and you apply for a mortgage. And upon the approval of your application, the mortgage company would write a check or ACH wire the fund on your behalf to the landlord, $700,000. And based on the amortization that they have done, you have to pay it back $1 million within the next 30 years. Within the next 30 years. Now, in order for the bank or the mortgage company or the finance company to secure their fund and make sure, okay, that they can get their money back, they put a lien on the property. They mortgage the property, right? So you are the mortgagee, and the bank or the mortgage company is the mortgager. Is that correct? So we ended up having like 3 different segments in this deal, and you are doing them simultaneously: sale agreement, loan agreement, and mortgage agreement. We do not have any issue with the sale agreement. We do not have any issue with the mortgage agreement, in a sense that if the lender is looking for secured loan, that would be fine. It would be fine. Someone is asking me for $100 loan for 1 or 2 days, and he said that, okay, before you fly back to Houston, Texas, I will come back to you tomorrow and give you the $100. If I do not know that guy very well, is it okay for me to ask for a collateral? Give me your phone, give me your watch, whatever. Keep it with me until you come back. Okay. Whenever you pay me the $100, I will pay you back I'll give you back the collateral. Is there anything wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, right? Well, that is the definition. That's the definition of mortgage according to the Quran itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said toward the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِن كُنتُمْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا كَاتِبًا فَرِهَانٌ مَقْبُوضَةٌ. أحسن. الرهان actually is the mortgage. الرهان is the collateral that the lender is asking for to secure his fund, to make sure that he can go after the borrower and get his money. So we do not have any issue with the mortgage agreement, putting a lien on the property. We do not have any issue with the sale agreement, because you are just buying a house. But we do have an issue with the loan agreement. Okay, so we ended up having 3 different components. 2 of them are halal. Sale agreement is halal. Sale agreement is halal. Mortgage agreement is halal. Okay, loan agreement is not halal because they pay $700,000 on your behalf to the landlord, and you have to pay it back how much? $1 million in our example within the next 30 years. Some people actually get confused. They think that the mortgage company is owning the property or buying the property. Well, this is incorrect. Okay, and the deed of trust, okay, you will see the name of the mortgage company, but they play the role of the lien holder. They are the lien holder and not the owner of the property. Who is the owner? It's you, the victim, the customer. So actually the house actually is yours from day one. The house is yours, and the mortgage company is the lien holder, right? طيب. Sale agreement is halal, mortgage agreement is halal, loan agreement is not halal because it is an interest-bearing loan. Can we be like so democratic and just go with the majority? Two halal against one haram and say, okay, the whole deal is halal? Well, in the Islamic finance system, it goes the other way around. If it is proven that one component, one segment of the deal is explicitly haram, prohibited, that would be more than enough to ruin the whole deal and to make it a haram one. So by default, by definition, traditional mortgage in the USA is not a halal option because it does have an interest-bearing loan. Now, fatwa of Shaykh al-Qaradawi rahmatullah alayh, and like the other school of thought who believes otherwise, and the Islamic alternative, that's completely different discussion, right? I'm here the bad guy. I'm just to make everything haram and just go back home. So based on our discussion, right, mortgaging a house in a very traditional way is not a halal option. It is not a halal option. Let's take some other examples, or like different examples. How about the cashback? Cashback. What does cashback mean? It means that you have a credit card, and when you hold a credit card, you are not using your money, you are borrowing money. Thank you. You are borrowing money. Like, if you borrow $100 from me, okay, and you pay me back 105, that's an interest-bearing loan. Is that correct? If you borrow from me $100 and you pay me back only $100, that's an interest-free loan. Is that correct? What if you borrow from me $100 and you pay me back only $95? Is this interest? That's completely the opposite of interest. Okay, you are the borrower. You take from me 100 and you pay me back only 95. In reality, you pay me back 100, but because of the cash back policy or the promotion that I have, I'm gonna I have to pay you back $5. So the net amount that you pay me is how much? 95. So cashback promotion actually is completely the opposite of riba. Thus, it is halal. I know that this is not something like really significant for us. It's just like an intellectual exercise on how to break down those contemporary trends, how to reinterpret them or how to unlock their secret and just to understand them or reinterpret them from fiqh perspective. So this is an interest-bearing, well, this is the opposite of interest-bearing loan, and that's why cashback actually is halal. How about the owner finance with interest? Owner finance. You want to buy a car from your neighbor, non-Muslim neighbor, and he was asking for $11,000 cash for the car, right? And you told him, you know what? I don't have enough cash money. Can you finance for me? He said, yeah, sure. So he just grabbed his calculator and he did some math. He said, okay, this car will be for $12,000, 1 year installment. And he added in the contract $11,000 price plus $1,000 interest. Okay, so he called it interest, right? And you try to argue with him that, oh, I cannot pay interest. He said, no, this is the deal. This is the contract. You take it or you leave it. $11,000 price plus $1,000 interest. Do you think that the $1,000 interest in the contract is the haram interest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited or not? You don't need to answer. Just think about it. And before you answer, let me give you another scenario. What if you decided to go to Bank of America and to borrow $11,000, and you pay John Smith, your neighbor, $11,000 cash. And because you have borrowed that money from Bank of America, you have to pay it back $12,000 within 1 year. Is it the same? Ruling wise, is it the same? Is it the same? No. When you go to Bank of America, you borrow money. That's an interest-bearing loan. You borrowed 11,000, you have to pay it back 12,000. Is that correct? But when you purchase that car, owner finance with John Smith, and he's asking for extra money, that extra money is not riba to start with, because there is no loan to start with. You are not borrowing money from John Smith. You are just purchasing a car from him. Now he wants, or he prefers, or based on his understanding, he want to call it interest. Well, let him call it whatever he wants. We don't care. Want to call it interest? Go for it. Call it interest. Write down interest in the agreement. We don't care, because that extra money, from an Islamic finance perspective, is a kind of profit. Sometimes we call it the time value, or the opportunity cost. This is one of the very few cases where the Islamic finance system does acknowledge the time value, right? In many cases, actually, you cannot like have value for the time. But in this case, actually, you can, okay? Because before you close the deal, there was no agreement between you and John Smith, right? You went to KBB or to CarMax and you found out that that car's like market value is, let's say, $10,000, right? And he was asking for $11,000 cash. Can he do that? Yes, he can. There is a lot of transparency in the market here. Okay, this is the car that its value is 10,000, but he's asking for 11,000. You take it or you leave it. Well, if he does have the right, that's my argument. If he does have the right to overprice the car, and sell it cash for whatever overpriced he's asking for, why cannot he just break down that total amount on 1 year? Okay. Again, from an Islamic finance perspective, listen to this. Offering two different prices for the same commodity, based on the sale agreement is permissible. So even if John Smith is a Muslim guy, and he told me, listen, this car is for $11,000 cash, or $12,000 for 1 year, or $13,000 for 2 years. 14, I mean, he can give you unlimited options. That would be fine. Okay. Now, once you close, that's it. So this car is not for, in our example, is not for $11,000 cash anymore. It's for $12,000 for 1 year. The duration of the installment is well known for you. It's 12 months. The monthly payment is $1,000. Total amount is $12,000. So there is no ambiguity. There is no vagueness here. Everything actually is clear, transparent from the beginning. Most importantly, there is no loan involved here. So if he wants to call that extra as an interest, let him call it interest. We don't care. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in the transaction is the essence and the reality, not the wording or the formality. Why we call it the opportunity cost? Because if John Smith, again, has decided to sell that car to somebody else for $11,000 cash, he would have been able to make $1,000 profit within 1 year. John Smith, to make you happy, has compromised that opportunity to make you happy as his Muslim neighbor. So you need to compensate him for that opportunity that he lost. That's why they call it the opportunity cost, right? And again, this is one of the scenarios where actually the Islamic finance system does allow or does consider the time value. This is, to make it clear from those examples that العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. Now we are zooming in. The Islamic finance system, okay, is based on risk sharing and not risk shifting. Okay, maybe to your surprise, loan is not a mode of finance. the Islamic finance system, loan is not a mode of finance. You are not expected to give money to others, okay, as a loan in order for them to invest. Okay, if I have $10,000 cash and someone is approaching me asking for a qardun hasan, interest-free loan, and I know that he's in desperate need for the money. He wants to pay for the tuition fees of his kids. He wants to pay the rent of his apartment, whatever the desperate need might be. I'll be more than happy to give him the money for a few days, a few weeks, few months, okay, until that financial burden actually is gone and he's supposed to pay me back. This is actually the Islamic perspective, that loan is an act of devotion, act of charity. Prophet ﷺ have told us that if you lend your money twice, you will be counted as if you have donated that money. If you lend the money, qardun hasan, interest-free loan, if you lend that money twice, like you lend it, you take it back, you lend it, you take it back, it will be counted for you reward-wise as if you have donated that money. So loan, again, is an act of devotion, act of charity, act of like cooperation. You support, you alleviate the hardship of others by giving them some money for a certain period of time. If that individual is asking for my money, $10,000 again, and I know for a fact that he wants to upgrade his business, am I expected to give him that money? Providing that he's a practicing Muslim and I'm practicing Muslim. We do not deal with interest. Is it a good idea for me to give someone $10,000 to use my money for 1 or 2 years, making Allah Alam how many thousands net profit from my money, and then to come back to me after 2 years giving me a big hug, oh Sheikh, Jazakallah khair, thank you so much, here's your money back? Seriously? I mean, is this a right decision? Of course no. If I know for a fact that you want to get my money, to have my money, to upgrade your business, well, let's sit down and talk business. Why you want that money? You have a car dealership, for example, business, and you want, to upgrade or to buy more cars. I can give you the money, but not as an interest-free loan, as a mudaraba, the first one here that you see. Mudaraba means trustee partnership. Trustee partnership. What does that mean? I give you the money, and based on my assessment, okay, because of that money, I should be entitled to get 10% of the net profit of the business, the whole business. So my profit has to be tight, okay, has to be a part of the net profit of the whole business. I cannot say, okay, here is $10,000 and I want $500 profit. Doesn't go this way. What if there was no $500, right? And when you say $500 profit, it means that you have to pay back the principal plus $500. Well, this is an interest-bearing loan, believe it or not, even if it is called mudaraba, right? So based on the mudaraba, for example, I tell the other party, here, listen, here is $10,000, and based on the market value of your business, I'm supposed to be entitled for 5% of the net profit of the whole business. Are you okay with that? He said, yes, here is the money. That's the mudaraba. If and only if there is an actual net profit, like after deducting the tax and the maintenance and the insurance and the overhead expenses and everything, right, and the payroll, if there is an actual profit, I should be entitled to get how much? 5%, based on whatever we agreed upon. And if I want to exit, I will take my $10,000 plus the 5% net profit from that business and just exit ma'as-salam. Okay, what if there was no profit? Business was not that good, right? And he was barely break even. I cannot ask for 5% because basically there was no net profit to start with. So I will be getting my money back, the principal, $10,000 and just ma'as-salam. Okay, let's go with the worst case scenario. That deal between me and him took place back in March 2020. What happened at that time? COVID-19, thank you. So he took the money, and because of the COVID-19, the whole economy, the whole business in the United States got frozen. So there was no negligence or carelessness or misconduct or embezzlement or mismanagement from his end. It was just, as they call it, act of God, qada wa qadar. He was unable to make profit. He was unable to break even. He was unable to survive. He just lost everything because of the COVID-19. Well, believe it or not, I cannot even go after him and ask for the principal. You see, this is actually what we mean by the risk sharing. If there is a profit, everybody will be enjoying the profit. There is no profit, no problem. I will take my money and just ma'as-salam. It's not the case if you go with the interest-bearing loan. If it is $10,000 interest-bearing loan, I don't care about the outcome result of that loan, right? You pay me back the 10,000 plus whatever we agree on. But when it comes to mudaraba, it is all about risk sharing. Every single, listen to this, every single mode of finance, if it is proven in the real life on the ground that the financier is not taking sufficient amount of risk and liability and possibility of loss, that mode of finance is not an Islamic one, even if it is called otherwise. Very good example. Those like major so-called Islamic mortgage companies in the United States, they sell their contracts to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae in the secondary market. They have to prove to Freddie Mac that they do not own the property. They are just lenders, okay? Liability free, no maintenance, no tax, no insurance. And they turn their face to the Muslim community, they're claiming that, oh, we own the house before we sell it back to you. So they have to own the house and they have to claim that they are not owning the house, right? At the same time. So they want to, as we say it back in Jordan, and they want to make them practicing Muslims with people. And whenever they deal with the Freddie Mac, they say, no, we do not own. It's just like a straightforward interest-bearing loan. Because of the severe incompatibility, very severe incompatibility between the Islamic and the traditional finance system, those companies who are making business and dealing with the secondary market, they cannot practice genuine, sound, authentic, 100% Sharia compliant Islamic finance. They cannot. Because they have to satisfy, they have to comply with the criteria of Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac actually, if it is proven that, or that XYZ mortgage company is owning the house, is responsible for the maintenance, responsible for the tax or for the insurance, right? Well, they would say, well, you are by your own. We cannot buy that loan. They just go with the book. Is it interest-bearing loan, right? With a promissory note that you have to pay such and such. If the answer is yes, they can buy it for you for less. I mean, this is how the system goes in the USA. You see what I'm saying? So back to our discussion. Any kind of Islamic mode of finance, if it is proven that the financier or the money advancer is not taking liability and risk, that so-called Islamic finance is not an Islamic one. It is not. Of course, it goes like you just pick and choose. Ijara, istisna, for ijara. Ijara means the lease to own, right? Well, in order for you to make profit as an Islamic finance institute, okay, and to apply ijara, you have to be the lessor. Lessor means the landlord. Well, landlord means that you are the owner of the property. So you need to purchase, you need to be the legal owner of the property and take all possible risk, all possible liability, okay, due to the ownership before you start leasing that property to others and charge them like lease revenue. And without you being the owner, then we're just joking, we're just deceiving the Muslim community, telling them, oh, this is Islamic finance. It is not. It is not. Moving on. Let's take an actual example. I mean, just to make it clear that the Islamic finance is completely different from the non-Islamic one. Just imagine that we have two different brothers here. We have Muhammad and we have Ali. Both of them actually wants to mortgage a house. Muhammad has decided to go with Bank of America. He applied for $700,000 loan. He was approved and he has to pay it back $1 million straight within the next 30 years. Ali went to an Islamic mortgage company. And I just want to imagine, okay, just for discussion purposes, that we do have genuine, sound, authentic, real Islamic finance practice, which is not the case nowadays, by the way. It is not. Unfortunately, it is not the case. Just imagine for discussion purposes that, oh, that Islamic mortgage company is real, genuine, legit, authentic Islamic mortgage company, right? Ali went to that Islamic mortgage company, applied for a loan, Islamic loan, $700,000, and he was approved, and he has to pay it back how much? $1 million. Okay, someone is just, passing by, watching the situation. He would say, well, what's the difference here? Muhammad borrowed $700,000. He has to pay it back how much? 1 million. Ali borrowed $700,000 and he has to pay it back 1 million. What is the difference? That confusion, actually, that confusion and misunderstanding is not something new. It was raised during the revelation of the Quran. It's a very, very old, misconception about the difference between sale agreement and riba agreement. ذلك بأنهم قالوا ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. Some people said that sale agreement is like a loan agreement, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did approve and permit the sale agreement and did prohibit the loan agreement. So again, that confusion is not something new. It is raised every now and then. It was raised during the revelation of the Quran 1400 plus years ago. Same misunderstanding is there. Now, in the real life on the ground, what's the difference between Muhammad, who has borrowed money from Bank of America, as opposed to Ali, who took an Islamic loan, if you wish, from the Islamic mortgage company? Muhammad actually is by himself. Okay, after borrowing $700,000, all the maintenance, all the tax, all the insurance is his responsibility. The bank does not care about anything whatsoever. If there is any increase or decrease, appreciation or depreciation in the market value of the house, the bank is not responsible. Something happened, like act of God, like natural disaster happened. Insurance did not cover. The mortgage company does not care. Eminent domain, the property was taken by the authority, right? They just removed the authority and they did not compensate Muhammad properly. That loss actually is the exclusive responsibility of whom? Of Muhammad. Natural disaster, foreclosure, eminent domain. The bank does not care about him. You took $700,000, we'll be going after you until you pay us back how much? 1 million. Okay. It's not the case with Ali. Ali actually get involved in something called declining partnership. Declining partnership. That's called the musharaka المتناقصة المنتهية المنتهية بالتمليك. Okay. He paid down payment 5%. The Islamic mortgage company paid 95% price of the property. And they registered the property as a joint property, joint ownership. So you will see the name of the Islamic mortgage company on the deed of trust. They own the property. They are not just lien holder. No, they own the property. So the musharaka, the partnership, has been established. 5% Ali, 95% the Islamic mortgage company. Ali, of course, wants to live in that house with his wife and kids, but he owns only 5%. So they make a lease agreement that, okay, you are allowed, Ali, to utilize or to have the right of use of right, they call it, right? To live, to occupy that house. But you need to pay us rent. Does it make sense? We own 95%, you own only 5%. You want to occupy the house with your wife and kids, you need to pay us rent. The fair rental value at that time, at that state, at that year was $2,500. Islamic mortgage company would ask for $3,000 monthly payment. 2,500 will go as rent and 500 will go as equity. So Ali will start purchasing the equity of the mortgage company, right? So he pays $3,000, 2,500 rent, $500 goes to the equity. The next month, okay, the rent will go down to 2,400 because actually he's owning more, right? And the $600 will go to the equity and so on and so forth. So he starts with 5% ownership or equity, 95% the mortgage company. After 1 or 2 months, he becomes 6%, 94, 7%, 93, 8%, and so on and so forth, all the way until the 30 years are over. By the very last payment he makes, right, he kicks them out of the deal and becomes the exclusive owner of the property. That's why they call it declining partnership. Declining, like diminishing or declining partnership. Now, not only that, during that 30 years agreement, 30 years, the Islamic mortgage company is liable and responsible proportionally based on equity, okay, for the maintenance, for the tax, for the insurance. Okay, if Ali, for example, was owning 20% at a certain spot, 20% of the property, and the mortgage company or the Islamic one is owning 80%, then 20% of the maintenance, tax, and insurance is the responsibility of Ali, while the mortgage company has to pay out of pocket 80% of that cost. Not only that, any kind of appreciation or depreciation, increase or decrease. Let's say that after 10 years, Ali said, you know what, I just want to terminate that agreement. I'm not happy with Seattle, Washington. I want to go down to Houston, Texas. Well, that's fine. He can put that house in the market for sale. If there is any kind of profit because of the appreciation, and he was owning 70% of the house at that time, okay, there was $100,000 appreciation, increase in the price. He will be putting $70,000, actual real $70,000 in his pocket, and the mortgage company will be taking $30,000. Likewise, there was the depreciation, $100,000. He will be losing only $70,000, and the mortgage company will be losing how much? $30,000. You see, any kind of natural disaster, eminent domain, foreclosure, the Islamic mortgage company will be absolutely entitled proportionally for its portion of the loss. That's the difference between what happened with Muhammad, what happened with Ali. Someone is just zooming out and looking at the whole picture. Oh, this is 700 borrowed by Muhammad to be paid back 1 million. Or this is 700 borrowed by Ali to be paid back 1 million. Well, the difference actually is huge, is significant based on what I already explained. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited interest? Okay. I'm sorry?
5 minutes.
5 minutes for the Isha, for the Iqamah? طيب. Do you want us to pray Isha and continue, or just maybe shift the Isha?
I think a lot of people are waiting to ask questions.
Asking questions?
Yeah.
طيب. طيب, let me, okay, can we? طيب. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I got my dinner, my coffee. I can just continue talking until tomorrow morning. طيب. So why riba is, you know what? Let me just skip it. Because, briefly, because riba actually brings a lot of financial exploitation. People are taking advantage from one another whenever riba is implemented. The Muslim community actually needs more education, okay, about contemporary issues like cryptocurrency, for example, student loans, retirement accounts, investing in the stock market, insurance, especially the life insurance one, home mortgage, and banking. The organization that I'm representing today actually is Guidance College. That's way different from Guidance Residential. So I'm not a double agent. I just work for Guidance College as a professor. At Guidance College, actually, we do have only 3 programs. One of them is called Masters in Islamic Economics and Finance, right? All these, like whatever I presented today, just like a kind of flavor or a free sample of whatever we offer in this program. And I assure you all that you cannot find the same material somewhere else. The Masters in Islamic Finance that we offer at Guidance College is unique. You will be learning fiqh al-mu'amalat, the fiqh of transactions, as well as the finance system in the USA. And you will be marrying, you will be combining both the fiqh one, the Islamic finance one, and the traditional one. And you will be able to become an expert in the Islamic finance once you get your masters. Guidance College is an online university, evening and weekend school. We do not have classes offered on Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. All the classes are either in the evening or in the weekend. And we do have, of course, very affordable tuition fees. We do have even in-house scholarship and financial aid. In the same way that we do have a lot of challenges and limitations and restrictions for us Muslims to practice our deen when it comes to finance and investment, right? We do have a lot of opportunities, and I wish I have enough time to go through, but we have some short-term solution and long-term solution. Let me just limit myself to whatever I presented briefly. This is the website, guidancecollege.org, and this is my email, drman@guidancecollege.org. I do Sharia compliance consultation as a side business, okay? Because actually I came to a conclusion that teaching the Muslim community is insufficient. I need to invest more time with the Muslim community to establish Sharia compliant businesses, right? Like to provide a solution, they need someone to be a Sharia consultant to tell them that this is haram and this is halal. This is actually what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years as a kind of contribution from me to the Muslim community to help them building institutes that are Sharia compliant away from the corrupt interest-based finance system. Inshallah, we'll break here and open the floor for question and answer after Salat al-Isha. If you can give me just a few minutes after Isha to introduce Guidance College to you, and then inshallah we'll be having plenty of time for question and answer. Jazakumullah khair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. الله لطيف. Oops.